Morning, everyone.
Morning.
We hope you're all well, wherever you may be, Montreal and elsewhere. Welcome to the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal Sunday morning family workshop. Um, and get your questions ready because we'll try to answer them as soon as we possibly can in the most comprehensive way we possibly can. Uh, so why don't we start by simply reminding everyone that our goal is to help you get to the next spot in your genealogical research, whether it's something that you knew and have forgotten, something that you want to uh, refresh your memory on, something that there's a brick wall that you want to get around, whatever it might be. Let's see whether we can try to help. We've got a lot of good brains here, and we'll put our heads together and try to make it possible to bring up answers. It looks like we have a newcomer trying to get on. Thelma, we look forward to seeing you. So why don't we start with the first question? Raise your hand and let's go. Jenny, you have all sorts of questions, I understand.
No, just the one that the Heritage Jewish Month was suggesting. One sent a little write-up of what family had contributed to Canada. And I have a little writing about the Lightstone family contributing to Montreal. But they say, put it on Twitter. Well, I'm not on Twitter and I don't intend to join Twitter. Or send it by email. And I just asked Vicky what she thought. And Vicky suggested just making it short, not the 3 pages that I have. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? I don't know what they're looking for, you see.
So, we know about the Lightstone having a history in Montreal. There are, different people in the Lightstone family. The ones that my mother knew growing up. The gasoline station at the corner of Marcille and Côte Saint-Luc Road was run by a Lightstone. There's Marilyn Lightstone and so forth and so on. So when you've got a family history, the question is, where does it belong? Where should it be so that it's accessible to other people in the future?
Right.
Well, one of the places might well be, and it's not going to be on the internet, but the Canadian Jewish Archives, and sending it to Janice Rosen. Are you familiar with Janice?
I am not, no.
Okay, so you can write her at J Rosen.
Why don't you put that address in the chat so that it's not
okay
public, but it'll be
why don't I do that? It'll be to everyone. J Rosen.
Please don't say it out loud.
Pardon me?
Don't say it out loud. That's the point of this.
Okay.
But just on general principle, I think we don't announce email addresses in case there's some privacy issues.
Okay.
And it's also being recorded.
I think I've got it properly there.
The chat, written in the chat. Okay.
Right. You can also put it on a number of different websites. There's a place for family information on Family Search, for example. And what I recommend, what hopefully people can do, of course, is to have your own website, modest as it may be, so that you have full control over it. I say full control. Somebody still can copy what you've got there, and that is something else that we see all the time. That people are seeing information, copying it and including it in their family tree, which when it's legitimate, that's a very nice thing to have. I don't know. Anybody else have any ideas where to put
Well, no, I thought your ideas were great about where to put it, but in terms of specifically the request from the Jewish Heritage Month that had asked people to send in information about how their family had contributed to to Canada. I think, yeah, I forgot about Marilyn, but perhaps Jenny, just in an email, just a brief summary of the stars of the family to send that to them. That would be my my instinct. But in terms of having a more permanent record or a more solid record, some of the things that Stanley suggested seem to make sense.
Yes, yes.
Did my sister make your wedding gown, Vicky?
What?
I said, did my sister make your wedding gown? My sister was a wedding gown designer in Montreal, and there was a period of time when she made everybody's wedding gown.
No, she didn't make my wedding gown. It was some dressmaker. I think she might have been Greek or something. She wasn't your sister.
She started making wedding gowns at the age of 15 in our basement on Wilson Avenue.
Oh, she's young.
Dropped out of school, became a designer. She lived 10 years in Mexico, designing for Jonathan Logan of Mexico.
Fabulous.
Anybody remember Portrait Gowns in Montreal? Portrait Gowns, that was a wedding gown company where she was the designer. So I guess that's about, other than my brother, our claim to fame in Canada.
What was her name, Stanley?
Shirley Diamond, Shirley Gordon.
Thank you.
You need a wedding gown, Meryl?
I just thought I'd ask people I know if who designed their wedding gown.
Was when she passed away, I received a number of photographs of wedding gowns, people that had used her in early years. I was hoping her daughter would actually create a website for it, but that hasn't happened. So anybody have any questions, or am I going to end up by giving a lecture here? Okay, Meryl.
I wasn't really planning on asking a question, and not terribly important, but if nobody else has any, because for personal reasons, I haven't been able to devote as much time as I would like to genealogy. But in the meantime, I did subscribe to made an account at MyHeritage, and I've always had 23andMe and a third one. So I'm getting lots of emails. I know there's some threshold of centimorgans and percentages that are worth pursuing. On every email I get from MyHeritage, it tells me I've got a second cousin 3 times removed and things like that. So is there a parameter, some guidelines as to which are worth following up on?
Well, I don't even bother looking at anything less than 150.
150 centimorgans?
Yeah. On the other hand, and this is where, you have to be very careful in sort of dismissing. I have found cousins, very distant cousins, where it's been less than 100 because they are very distant cousins. The trouble is, for most of us, we haven't got them any place in our family tree. So it's like, how are we related? On the other hand, even when you have 500, there could be something unusual. And so I'm going to use this to tell a story, because it's very important to understand what you may learn. 10, 15 years ago, we were contacted, JRI Poland, by a lady trying to find her ancestry. She was a hidden child who had survived and was then brought to the United States. And she knew a name, and we found her birth record in Poland. And now she had a name, And this was published in a magazine. I can't remember which magazine it was in the States. And now she had a family, and the family name was, we'll call it Schwartz. That's not the name. And so we helped her build a huge family tree. And this was before DNA really was a gathering force. But then she did a DNA, and all the matches were not close at all. And finally, we got a close match. And sure enough, we were able to document her close match to this man in Brooklyn. Very nice. This woman, born in Poland, brought up in New York, married a rabbi, and moved to Israel. And we waited and waited, and still no other matches. Bingo, about 6 months ago, we got a 500 centimorgans match. She has to be related, right? I mean, it's like no brainer. And this all happened in the last week. So I you know, the if you will, the news. And we got the family tree from this lady, the new match, and her family tree. Nothing seems to fit. This is really strange, really strange. And then we got this the new match, the one that 500. We arranged to get some family members tested. And sure enough, it was a totally different family to which the original individual was related. And here was where the shocker was. Her family name, her new family name that she doesn't even know because we haven't told her, her new family name is a huge family from that area of Będzin, Poland. And the family name is also the name of a gynecologist in Będzin at the time that she was born. And that gynecologist is, based on everything we can figure out, is her father. And she does not know that. So what were the circumstances? She was born in wartime, 1941. She was her mother, you know, smitten by her gynecologist. There was never another child, according to what we now know. So was she just desperate to have a child for whatever reason? We don't know. But like I said, there's always, not always, but there have been far too many unexplained events when you start doing your family history and start doing DNA research. Whether or not you're afraid to learn the truth, that's something else again. So, Vicki?
Yeah, well, I think Andreas had his hand up first. I was just thinking, Andreas, do you want to go first, or should I? You have to unmute, so I'll go first. Three things. I've posted a link to an article in the chat. It's called "No, You Don't Really Have 7,900 Fourth Cousins: Some DNA Basics for Those with Jewish Heritage." So, you know, it's about how, you know, all the sort of false positives because of endogamy, but you can check out the article. Second point, I have three, Marilyn, and then there's Andreas, unless it's urgent.
Barry Spinner has a question, and I just don't want that to be.
Oh yeah, it's okay. That was the third thing I was going to talk about, but I'll interject that now. Barry and Thelma, since we can't see you because you don't have your video on, and you don't have to turn it on, but there is an option to indicate a raised hand icon. I'm not sure where it would be on your screen, but that's one thing that you could do. That there, thumbs up. Okay. There's one where it's a raised hand, I think.
So can I,
But that way we'll know you
yes,
have a
speak?
question. That was my third point. My second point was that I do have some known paper trail relatives that are under 150 centimorgan matches in terms of DNA. So I guess for new discoveries, 150 is a good threshold, but don't assume that just because something is below that they're not related. That was it. Okay, those are my 3 points. Then there's Andreas, then there's Barry. Andreas, you want to unmute yourself?
And just to add what Stanley just said, there was recently an article, I don't remember where it was, and the story was that there was, again, somebody who found somebody online with the DNA, and it turned out there was a lady in London who was helping women who were desperate to get children, and she gave them the sperms of, I think, her husband. So this gynecologist had, I don't know, 100 children or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that occurred to me when you said gynecologist, big family. I had
Yeah,
that.
but of course, artificial insemination wasn't quite well known in
Yeah.
1941. I think they tried it the traditional way. So Barry has a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Merle. Yeah, unmute yourself, Merle. Unmute
I
yourself.
keep doing it and it automatically seems to mute. And is the percentages related to the centimorgan? So is there some threshold there as well?
You know, this article on endogamy is very important to read because
I will.
you know we're really dealing with a limited ancestral pool, and I think all of us could look at family trees and see where cousins married cousins, etc. So that's why you sort of have to do a little bit of digging. But I think my own attitude is I don't have the time to address the 10 new matches that I get every week. So it's a matter of seeing very quickly, is that a name that is in my 16,000 name database, or is it, and I had one this morning. I had the name Jay Weiss. So do I have a Jay Weiss? No, I have a Jeremy. I have a James. Is one of them known as Jay Weiss? I don't know. So I've been waiting for them to reach out to me, and I'm very surprised how few people actually do that. How few, and I'm even when it's a reasonable 125, 130, 140, I think, oh, maybe I'm going to hear from somebody, but I don't. So it's a question of personal attitude. How desperate or how much does somebody desire to find some answers, to find some connections?
Well, that's helpful to know that you pretty much ignore those emails, because that's what I was wondering. I'm getting.
You could ignore them, or you could be courteous and reply. I mean, that's
No. I don't mean emails from individuals. I would always respond to an
okay.
letter from individual. I mean, from the company saying you have new relatives.
Right.
So,
well, let me say this, because no one asked me, but I will give you the answer. What do I do when somebody writes and says we may be related? I have an ancestral chart that lists all my ancestors in all my branches going back to my, third, fourth great grandparents, and I have indicates the dates. It indicates where they were from, which town they were from. Well, in my case, virtually all the ancestors are from 2 different towns. But for some people, they've got 20 different towns when they start tracing their family history. So at least I say, here is my ancestral chart. Do you see anything? And that simplifies the whole process of answering these inquiries. If anybody, I mean, We all know what an ancestral chart is. And if you don't have the software to create one, download one of the templates that are available online and then handwrite them. Just handwrite the problem with the family trees on the internet and the ancestral chart is you don't have all the information. You don't see the dates, and you don't see the locations. Typically, you don't in the way these ancestral charts appear online. So that's my suggestion. So I see. Let's try to answer.
Barry's been waiting quite a
Yeah,
long time.
I'm going to address that now. So Barry asks, I'd like to discuss my grandfather, Joe Spinner, a Galician who came to Toronto in about 1908. I have a serious brick wall concerning his shtetl. Is it Sambor near Lemberg? I will discuss what little I know of his European roots. So how would I address that if I had?
Can I speak first, Stanley, so you don't have to?
I'm sorry?
May I speak about this?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I apologize for not having video. I'm having a lot of trouble with my camera's drivers. They come and they go, like some of my ancestors. So Joe Spinner, my grandfather, is my major brick wall. And I believe I have every existing North American record concerning him. And the problem is that based on secondary information, I believe he's from the village shtetl of Sambor. By
Right.
the way, there are two Sambors, Starry Sambor and ordinary, I guess, new Sambor. I've been in Jewish Gen Family Finder, of course, for 30 years around this name, which is not that common. There is another Spinner family in Starry Sambor, but another researcher, Gary Katz, assures me that we're not related. All of the forenames are really quite different. So the basis on which I think he is from Sambor is the following. When he comes to Toronto in about 1908, and his brother also, Shimon, who comes a couple of years later, they both go and board with a family in the ward in Toronto called the Krugos. And they board with the Krugos even when the Krugos move uptown. So this made me think, of course, that there was some either familial or other relationship. I eventually get in touch with one of the last remaining Krugos in Canada. And he says to me that as so far as he knows, they were not related, but they came from the same village, which was Sambor. That's the first piece I have. The second piece I have is when his sister-in-law, Sabina Spinner, arrives in Manhattan to join her husband, who is already in Toronto, she states that she's going to join Simon Spinner in Toronto. And she herself is from Sambor. And she has a very unusual maiden name, Schneidenshare. And in the Yitzker books for Sambor, I actually find her uncle or her father mentioned. In fact, as part of the Judenrat of the time. So that's about it. And none of the records of Sambor that are in JRI or Jewish Gen identify Joe or Yosef Spinner or Shimon Spinner. I now have a name of their father, Jacob, in his 1913 Manhattan marriage application. Not on the certificate, but on the application, which I went and bought about 10 years ago. And there's no Jacob Spinner in Sambor, so far as I can tell, in the records I see. So it's very flighty information. It's been very, very discouraging. I've only been on this for 35 years. And of course, I'm always comparing this to my English ancestry, where I have them back to 1720 because the records are extant. Over to you, Stanley.
Okay, so first of all, have you been in touch with Mark Halpern?
No.
Okay, so Mark Halpern is the area coordinator for the former for the part of Poland that is former Poland that is now in the Ukraine, and associated with the AGAD archives, AGAD. Now, I don't know if is there a town leader for Sambor and JRI Poland? I can't remember offhand.
Think no.
Okay, so let me share screens and let me walk you through the steps that I would take if I were looking for the same answers. So the first thing I would do is share screens. Then I would want to know a little bit about the town. And so I would go to JRI Poland, and we'll start with your town, and we'll go to Sambor, and we see Sambor right here, and we look and see what kind of records are available. 1862 to 1883 births, 68 to 83. So we see the records up to 1910. So are there later records? And so there is a Sambor town leader, Rochelle Kaplan, and she's been a town leader for quite a while. You should certainly communicate with the town leader. Some town leaders have an exhaustive knowledge of the town, and some don't. If there's no town leader there, there's your archive coordinator, Mark Halpern. So that is the first view. And then we go back and we'll look at Stary Sambor. If we can find it here. And then Stary Sambor. And we have a different town leader who may know a lot about his town. Obviously, until you're 100% sure which is the town, you can't really do too much more, but you can do general research. Now, the other thing you want to know is what additional records might there be? So then, and see whether or not, for example, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to Sambor, and we scroll down here, and we have a link to Roots. And here is Roots, Sambor. We search. So there's birth records, death records, Jewish school records, landowner, marriage. Marriage is the vital records: birth, death, and marriage. Okay, landowners. Well, what was this for? So we have Jewish school, 1924 to 1937. Is there something in there that might apply? So you'd have to tap the Central State Archives in Lviv. If you need a researcher for that area, for somebody who's familiar with the records there, there's Alex Denisenko and many others who can do the research for you. Thomas Yankovsky, who lives there. And that's, on-site research, stuff that is not in our database. Now, there's another thing that you see here, immigration and Holocaust. Those are very, excuse me, very limited to a specific period of time. These are the Polish Aliyah passports, and they're online in JRI Poland. So that is another level of learning what's available. Now, if you look at USC office, let's look at the USC office for births. and it says 1918 to 1942. These are records that are not in our database because they are covered by Polish privacy laws, but the records themselves are in this, what's called the USC, the Urząd Stanu Cywilnego in Warsaw. And these records are transferred in batches. Now, if this book, for example, if there were multiple books, 1918 to 1919 or 1919 to 1920, then the book would be eligible to be transferred. But if that one book is 1918 to 1921, it would not be transferred from the Civil Records Office to the AGAD archives until January the 1st, 1922, or available for read. So now I'm going to dig into JRI Poland, and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go to our website, my internal website, data. So let me see where I am, Dropbox and spreadsheets. So these are all the records that have come in from AGAD. Now, because I am not an expert in this area, and Mark Halpern is, I don't bother to track individual data sets. But let's see what we find if we look for Sambor, if there's anything recent that you haven't even heard of, that I haven't even heard of or haven't noticed. So it's Sambor. And we're going to go to Sambor. So and we're going to go to view details. So you can see these are all the records that have come in over the years, going back to 2002 for Sambor. Now, where it's highlighted, it means the records from Sambor or Stary Sambor itself. Where it's not highlighted, it's where Sambor is mentioned in these other towns. Now, if we look at the most recent one, we see that there's 1930 to 1936 marriages. When did you said it was 1908, right? Barry?
I'm here. So if there is a marriage record, it will be of Shimon and Sabina before 1909.
Okay.
I'm going to say it would actually be closer to 1900 because of the age of the children that she brought with her.
All right. So what I want to do now is I want to see what's online in JRI Poland. And I have an internal way of doing that. I put in Sambor. Sambor. And the records that we see here, the most recent upload of data is 2017. And
so this last record might cover it.
So, and online, you can search online for marriages up to 1914, births up to 1915, and deaths up to 1915. Those are the latest years. So the records you're looking for should be there. However, if you look and see you see that 1993 to 1995, I don't know if you can see this, but what this says is the years that are available. So the book from 1993 to 1994 did not survive. That's what it appears to be as far as the marriages are concerned. Wait a second, that's births. So then in the marriages are complete 1877 to 1914. So if you don't see the marriage of his parents, that would likely mean that they got married in another town. And so you have to start looking at the nearby towns. Now that's Sambor. as far as Starry Sambor is concerned, the births are available up to 1912, but only this small collection, 1904 to 1912. And marriages, 1877 to 1907. But again, the marriage could have taken place in a third place or fourth place, wherever. So that's another indicator. And this is what the town leader can tell you about what's available. Now, finally, if you want to know what's available, you go to the Polish State Archives website. This is the Polish State Archives new website, Szukaj w Archiwach. Here, I will copy and paste that into the chat box. Copy. If I can find the chat box now here. No. I can't get to the chat box. No. I only have a few things open. Oh. No, I'll do it later. I'm not getting there. So I'm going to go back to the Polish State Archives website. I'm going to click on the home page and I'm going to put in Sambor. Notice it's in English as well. The top pages are in English, and we'll click on Sambor. And we want Jewish, so we're going to put Moshe Javov, which is the name that is used, and we want Pragyad. Pragyad is vital records. So now we have the Jewish vital records. And we see that you have deaths, 1936. You have the different marriages. So let's look at Sambor. We'll click on that. And then we go to the reference code, which is the reference to the collection. 308 is the collection number. 566 is the signature. And then we want to take a look at, no, so this, it shows, there's no details, it just says 37 to 44, that to 1940. And that means that the books themselves have not been inventoried. So let's go back here and we'll take and we once again go to this code, the reference code, and then we go, it says scans, 17,272 scans available online. And we go to the units, meaning the breakdown, the units being town by year. So each one of these listings here is a book, signature number 1, etc. But we look here and we see, we don't see Sambor, we see Borisław. So that means probably that the Polish State Archives have, the website is not working effectively. We've got Drohobych, and we have all these, each one of these is a listing of 20 entries, and we have 200 per page. So I don't know why we're not getting Sambor, but there is another way to get there. And here is the way that we would get there. 300. Oh, yeah. No, I'm a little bit stymied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the old website. The old website of the Polish State Archives is being taken down in 2 weeks, but at least we have the and we go to the old website. And we click on. We have to go back to the home page. We're now on the home page and we put in Sambor. And here we have Sambor. We want Jewish. We put the Jewish in and we refine. And here's Sambor. There's different. And we're going to click here, the collection. And we're going to go to units. So now we have, oh, it's the same thing. It's all, unfortunately, in the case of AGAD, all the records are in one batch that is one, it's called Fawn 300. So I'm having a problem. Mark Halpern could probably help you. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing screens.
I'll contact Mark.
I don't know whether that was helpful or not, but
Yes.
I think the most important part of that lesson is that there's a number of different ways that you can approach trying to find that information. But I go back to what I said during that, that monologue, that the marriage could have taken place in another place. Now, if you're not familiar with the maps, or the locations or the relationship of one place to another, there is a very fast way to do that. Let me share screens again. Pardon me, will I do this again? And very simply, we go to Google and we say distance from Sambor to Stary Sambor, and up, oh geez, Ukraine. Sometimes you have to provide some context. No. Oh, let's go. Let's put in Stary Sambor. Okay, here's Stary Sambor. And this is the current spelling of it.
Stanley, you could also find the distance between them on Jewish Gen.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you, here we go. All right.
If you go to the towns.
It gives you nearby, but doesn't necessarily, if say now this is within 18.5 kilometers. So it would be in Jewish Gen. Whereas anything more than, I think, 15 kilometers? I can't remember, whatever it is, the Jewish Gen communities database. Well, let's go there and let's take a look at it.
Even if it's not on the list nearby, although as you say, it probably would be, you can enter the coordinates
Oh, yeah.
between two places, and it'll show you the distance as well. I believe. I haven't done that in a long time.
Sambor. So here is Sambor. Start the search. And of course, when you put in Sambor, you end up by getting Sambor, Ukraine, and which is what you want. You click on the icon, and you'll see Stary Sambor 11 miles. So in this case, that was another way of, but sometimes the nearest Jewish community is in an illogical place. That is, it's across the river, and the records might be in a different place completely because even though it's across the river, there wasn't that much communication between the communities. But anyway, going back here, you can see, and if you blow it up, you can tell that there is a highway all the way through, presumably, and it looks like it's a riverbed here. It follows the river, so that also makes sense about the relationship between the two towns. On the other hand, if you go back here to JewishGen, and you see the fact that there are a number of places where there were Jewish communities that the bride could have been living in one of these places. So it's just another level of challenge trying to figure out where that marriage took place. Okay, I'm going to now stop that one. And who else has a question? Did it generate some questions by somebody? Oh my God. No questions. Okay, let me have a drink. Let me, for those of you who have roots in Poland, I don't know if you've looked at the new JRI Poland website. So let me just show you a couple of things on the website. Share screens.
Stanley, Sue has her hand raised.
Okay, let me go back then. Who has a hand raised?
Me.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything right away because it's sort of off topic from the last discussion, and it's not something to look up, but it's just a comment to make, was that in the past week actually it was 2 to 3 weeks ago, I had a very high match come in saying that I was probably a first to second cousin, but I knew that I wasn't a first to second cousin because of my adoption and so forth.
Sue, I'm sorry. I'm not hearing clearly. So if you do me 2 favors. First of all, move your camera down so I can see your mouth and I can do some lip reading as well. Okay. And if you would repeat it slowly.
All right. Okay. So 2 to 3 weeks ago, I received a message I can't remember, I think it was on Ancestry, that I had a match that was pretty close. It said first to second cousin. And I looked at it, and there's no endogamy on this side of my family, or if there is, it's small. So I looked at it and I thought, no, I'm not a cousin. I'm most likely this guy's half aunt. And I looked at the page that he had submitted with his tree, and I could see that he had his mother, her name wasn't there, but going above that part of his tree, he had all of his mother's ancestors listed there. They were all Estonian. On his father's side, the tree was empty. So I knew this guy was probably looking to find out who his father was, and that obviously it was going to be one of my half brothers. And I went through my siblings on that side of the family, who I'm not in contact with really. but I knew exactly who it was going to be. I responded to him. I waited until he wrote to me. I thought he should come to me because having been adopted myself, I knew that was part of what he needed to do. It took him 2.5 to 3 weeks to actually reach out to me. He may have contacted some of his other cousins first, and although I have the higher DNA, but he said I'm the only one that responded to him. So I asked him for his phone number, and I'm in limbo because I now have to call him back and try to remember how it felt being on the other side of the coin, not having the information and wanting the information. My dilemma is that once I did find my birth family on that side of the family, it was good for a few years in the honeymoon period, but then it fell off and we were very different people. So now my job is to decide what to tell him when I call. I was going to call him today, and then while we were talking, I just got a message about somebody who has pancreatic cancer, so now I have to deal with that first. But I have to decide what to tell him, and I felt that I found my aunt first, and I gave her 3 days before we met. She, in turn, without asking me, she went ahead and called my birth mother, who did say I have a right to know and da 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 da. So now I'm in that position, and I would like to contact my brother, half brother, but I haven't talked to him in years. And he was the shy one, the one that never really wanted to communicate with me. I don't have his phone number. The only phone number that I have would be one of his other brothers. And, you know, there's a lot of dynamics going on there. So I have to decide, should I call them or should I simply talk to this fellow and tell him, here's one of your uncle's numbers, contact him, or one of your cousins. But there's so many family dynamics going on there that I don't know if that's the right way to go. And I don't know how much to disclose about myself. Because if I were to tell him family dynamics that were difficult, that doesn't pave a positive road for him. But once he contacts them, probably I won't have any more contact with him, not because of me, but because he'll get so immersed in this family that will be a sidebar. Oh, and he has half sisters as well. So this brother had 5 girls. This will be his only boy. But it doesn't sound like it was any kind of a long-term relationship because he didn't even know.
I'm sorry, repeat what you just said.
He has some half sisters with different mothers as well. But he doesn't, I don't have their contact numbers either. I think he might be able to get them on Facebook, but I only knew 2 of these children that my brother had. I went to their baptisms, but I haven't seen them since they were little girls, and they're like grown up now. So the other ones I never got to meet. So I mean, he does have quite a family. His father, I think because this is a boy, he might be really receptive, but I would like to be able to talk to him first, but I don't know how to get a phone number for him.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that. Where does he live?
London, Ontario.
London, Ontario. And phone number on Canada 411?
No. Well, I haven't checked it in a while, but he didn't have one. He would probably be on a cell phone.
Okay, but there are cell phone lists as well. And you don't know where he lives in, he lives in London, Ontario. That's all you know.
Well, last I knew he lived in London, Ontario, where a lot of the other family lives.
And so these are basically all non-Jewish people.
Yes.
I see. Okay. So you have the Ontario Genealogical Society, and they have branches in every town. So I would go to the Ontario Genealogical Society website and see whether you could find a contact in London, Ontario, and see whether you can track them down that way. That would be my suggestion. I mean, that's the one person you would like to speak to first. Is that correct?
I think it's the best solution. I mean, having been through all this, and if I was to put myself in my brother's shoes, even though he, like, see, I'm not even sure. Like, if I gave someone a message to have him please call me, I don't think he would.
Okay, well, these are, this is an area where I'm not going to be able to help you. But in terms of trying to find him, how old a man do you think he is, or do you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's probably 62.
I'm sorry?
62, I would guess.
62. So,
yeah.
He's not in a home print. He's probably in his own home, working. So there's
No, he wouldn't be working, and he's probably in an apartment.
Okay, hold on a second. Vicki?
Well, I just had a thought. You said he has daughters that would be old enough now to know how to contact him, and
Yes.
who maybe are not drawn into the whole family dynamic because they're a new generation. Have you tried tracking down one of his daughters just to say, I need to get in touch with your dad? Do you have an email address?
This family's very enmeshed, so they do know the dynamics.
They do. Okay.
Yeah. But the only, there's one daughter who's listed on Facebook, but I would have to disclose myself on there, and I don't really want to do that because it brings in everybody.
Well, hold on. If she's on Facebook, you can use the message and write her privately. You don't have to post.
I know, but then I have to disclose. I'm under a pseudonym there, and I would have to disclose who I am, which would mean the rest of them could.
Well, not necessarily. You can get somebody else to write for you. I'm not offering myself, but I can say that. I can say that I know people do this all the time. They don't want to be identified, so they a friend or whatever, somebody with a different name at all, says, I am writing on behalf of so and so. We would like to be in touch, or she is shy, or whatever the reason is that you give, and to see what kind of reaction that you get from that. It's an option in the way of communicating without revealing who you are.
I might say that you might say that I have information to share with
Right.
half brother. I have some information to share with him, and I don't know. That's what would occur to me is perhaps not too
In fact, that's
intrusive.
Thank you, Vicki, because that's really the first rule of the nursery is not only asking but sharing, and sometimes that is enough to trigger a favorable response. So that would be probably the fastest, easiest way, other than, as I said, reaching out to the Ontario Genealogical Society. You know what? Just when we were talking about Montreal, where do you live, by the way, Sue?
In Toronto area.
Okay, so we were talking about this before the session started, how people know each other in a town. One person's connected to another. Sometimes it's just by coincidence that people know who that person is. So absolutely, I would try to reach out to the Ontario Genealogical Society London branch, and perhaps provide whatever information that you possibly can, and see what you get back.
Okay.
Now, has he done a DNA?
I haven't been in touch with this family for, I don't know. Well, when my husband died, I called and nobody responded. and that was in 2013. So going back probably at least, I think since 2000, I don't know, it's been a long time. So well, if he had done DNA, I would have seen it because I would have come up. So I would say no.
Okay. All right.
But his other brother, my other brother, has a son. He's done it, and he's a cop in London. But I don't want to call the police department because I would be bringing family stuff in, and I don't have Chris's contact. And it would be his father that I would probably contact if I went that route.
Okay, well, look, we've given you some suggestions. I wish you luck and let us know what happens.
I will. Okay,
thank you.
Help.
Judith, Madam Gert, did you have your hand up with a question?
No, I'm sorry I'm late. A cousin phoned from Ottawa to talk genealogy just as your session was starting. So
no problem at all. No problem at all. This question about Facebook is a very interesting one. How we use it, how we address it. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to spend on Facebook, and in fact, there's so many questions and things that come up on the Jewish genealogical Facebook page. There's a couple of different ones, and people end up by letting me know that there was this question about this, a question about that, but I don't monitor it myself because it becomes a rabbit hole with all the different things that people post. However, I do use Facebook with my kids, and that's about it. So I'm really not an expert, and often I get lost looking at it. But we know that many people have made wonderful discoveries through Facebook. And because I have two unique family names in my grandparents, frankly, I see a lot of cousins, but I haven't reached out to them. People that are in my family tree, in my database, but the younger generation probably are not there. So I haven't pursued that just simply because of time. No other questions. And it's only 11 o'clock. Oh my God. Leonard, you're being very quiet today. Unmute yourself, Leonard. Leonard, there we go.
Well, I enjoy attending these workshops. You never know what type of answer you may hear that'll help you in your own research.
Okay. By the way, just passant, I was talking about the JRI Poland, the new website. We're building it in a step-by-step process because it's so complex. There are so many different things that we're trying to integrate that trying to do it all at once, first of all, was a challenge just engineering wise, but is also a challenge dollar wise. But let me just show you one of the nice things that we have been able to incorporate. Share screens. Okay, so, and for those who are wanting to try it, it's beta.jripoland.org. And so here's the website. This is my great uncle and his family. And I found this photograph. Family in Israel had it. Not my cousins, but they were related through marriage. And they had this wonderful, wonderful photograph. So we're going to go to something called the Town Explorer. And this was what we called the town page before. Now it's the Town Explorer. You can designate your favorite town so it comes up right away on this list with the hearts. And so let's take a look here. For example, we'll look at Alexandra Lodgky. And we'll click on that and bingo, you get the map, knowing exactly where it is. And you can make it larger, make it smaller, see the nearby towns. So you don't have to go asking for the map. That's number one. You'll have the town leader, Naomi Leon in London, and you click here and you can write her a message. And then you want to know how many records are in our collection. 7,749. So you know that there's a lot of data. Now you want to know whether your family was from Alexandra Lodgky or another town here. Let's say there's another town here. I want to just, okay. So you want to see the surname list. And you click here and it says no results found. And that means that they're probably working on the site. So let's go to another town and see whether we can find another town. Oh, I didn't have to go that far. We'll look at my town, and it fills in for you right away. And it tells you, for example, if you type in Ostrov, you get 4 different towns. And so here's my town. The volunteer is me. And I want to see whether we have surnames. Let's see whether we, no results. Okay, so what I was wanting to show you is that the surname list that comes up is a real-time research of our database. So just to go back to the old database, the old website, if I go to your town and I put in my town, Ostrov Mazowiecka, you will see here, no, you won't see it here. Let's try Ozerov. So click here for surnames. So it says, go to the new website. And there it is. Somehow there was a bug. This is May 16th, 2021. This is what's actually live, so that we don't have to keep updating individual towns, 600 individual towns, when there is new data. And this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. We also have a learn section, which is where you can type in your question. And that's being developed in a more thorough way. Get involved, make a donation, extraction about the organization. So, I don't know what's going on there, but let's go back. You see about what is JRI Poland's mission, who are the leaders, whatever. So anyway, just for those who have an interest in Poland, I hope that at some point it's going to be even more operational. One of the challenges, and this applies to probably every organization in the genealogical world, is the extent to which information is available in a country. When there's minimal amount of information, it's a very easy thing to put it all together in a simple way. But when our situation with Poland is so massive in terms of the amount of data and the types of data that are involved, and all I can say is that every single day there's a question that's raised by the engineers, the development team, that we have to say, okay, no, let's do it this way, or what do you think it's going to cost to do it that way? I never want to have to go through this again. It's like giving, gestation period of an elephant times 5. Any other questions, folks? Okay, Andres, unmute yourself, Andres.
Okay, since we have time, can you do an ancestry search for me, for my grandfather? My grandfather's death certificate, which I don't have, it's on Ancestry. I don't have a subscription.
I'm sorry, Andres, repeat that.
My grandfather died in Berlin in 1940, but I don't have his death certificate.
And so have you tried to write to the Berlin?
No, it's on Ancestry.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yes. Can you
So-
show it to me? I
yeah.
have also some.
Okay,
I
so
have-
so put it in the in the chat, the name of your grandfather.
Okay. Okay. Mhm. Okay. I have to find my. Okay, 1 second.
He's got a long name.
Yeah, no, I have to find. So he died on the 16th of July, 1940.
So what's the name?
Josef Schwab. It's in
Oh, okay. So that's easy. So let's go to share screens. Share screens. We'll go to Ancestry. Where's my? And we'll put in Josef Schwab.
yes, Josef.
J-O. Jesus, I'm having a problem here. S-C-H-W-A.
SCHWAB, but it could be also an F.
I'm sorry?
It could be PH, but it could also be F. But I
Right.
think ancestry, if
Okay, so
you
we're
have sounds and similar, and he was
going to put Germany,
in Berlin.
and we're going to put sounds like. Okay. And
No, the last name is okay.
oh, okay.
It's exact. There's nothing.
Exact.
Yes.
Oh,
But,
okay.
but this should be. It's already sounds like. Okay. So he died in 1940 in Berlin.
1940 would be
Yes.
a death.
Death, yes.
So
And
death,
also the birth.
1940.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do a search. This is 1970. So we want the death, we want it. No, nothing. So let's bring it back plus or minus. Just see whether that'll work. How do you know? Oh, well, here we go.
No. He was born in 1865.
Now, you know that it's there or not?
I have seen it before, but maybe it disappeared.
Yeah.
No? Okay, I have some other searches that I wanted to do, but I think it's 1849. Okay, sorry. Didn't work.
No.
I think I found it.
Yeah?
Let me see
Wanna
if I can.
Share screens, okay?
Okay.
Gary's much better at that than I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's him. And they put also his name Israel in there, which of course.
Oh,
this
yes.
is-
It's like Sarah.
Yes. So
Why didn't it come up for me, Gary?
I don't know. I did the same searches that you did, and it didn't come up for me. And
Okay.
so
So
it's a
that-
mystery.
So he was an editor, a retired editor, and he was of Mosaic religion. He was born on, and he died on July 16 at 8:30 p.m.
Okay, so now Gary's going to be able to send it to you.
Yes, thank you.
Will do. I'll stop sharing.
Uh-huh.
So there we go.
I have a few more, but
Well, if you have a few more, write Gary directly and
yeah, okay, no problem.
maybe he can help you. You know,
No problem.
it's wonderful when you can bring that up. It's like a miracle when you think about it. Anybody looking for a specific record that it's been a challenge?
No, but I just wanted to mention to Andreas, if you don't want to join Ancestry because it's so expensive, if you join the Jewish Public Library,
Yes.
I believe that Ancestry Online is still available through the library.
Yeah.
So that's an inexpensive way, and then you can look up your own records.
How about the Mormon thing, the family search?
That's free to everybody.
Yes, but can we look up things that are because
If it might tell you that there's a record on a paid site, it'll show that the record exists, but it can't access the record for you unless you have to pay for the site.
no,
But as I say, the least expensive way to access Ancestry right now, if I believe it's still available, it's been on and off, you'd have to check, but it would be through the Jewish membership in the Jewish Public Library.
Okay, thank you. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted a record that's on Ancestry, but it can only be seen if at an affiliated library. But the libraries are, as far as I know, they are closed now.
That's not true of Ancestry. That's true of the
No, Family Search, yes.
Family
LDS.
search, yeah.
Are these available now? Or I have to go to St. Anne and go and visit, what's his name?
Gary Schroeder.
Gary Schroeder.
Well, the family search, the Jewish Public Library is an associated family search site. It doesn't have all the access that a family search office, the one in Villa Sal. Now, the one, I presume this is also the case, if you want to use Family Search and you want to see the actual images, which are available only on Family Search's website, then you have to drive to the Family Search center in Verdun, park in the parking lot, and tap their Wi-Fi. And that's what people are doing all around the world. They're doing it at the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City. And I have a volunteer who was, I really can't go into too much detail other than the fact that he has managed to find a way to download more than one record at a time. And for JRI Poland, that's vital because we're looking for collections of records that we have to do indexing. And they're not yet scanned by the Polish State Archives, yet they're in the scans online only at family search centers. So just keep that in mind. If there's this one crying need that you have and you want to get into the family search database, drive to LaSalle, park next to the building, or drive out to, you're out in the West Island, drive out to the office. Gary says people do come in. They only allow a few people at a time.
Okay.
But
put in my mask and go in.
Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
I don't know what, just to repeat something that everybody should know, and that is about the 1940 Canadian National Registration. So Barry was talking about, was it Stary Sambor or was it Sambor? And if you don't find the Canadian naturalization, then finding out where the family lived in 1940 and getting the 1940 Canadian National Registration for each individual, because each individual was recorded separately. So if you have grandparents who weren't from the same town, you would have to get both their documents, which are $48.15 from Statistics Canada. So, like I said, if you are trying to find out where somebody's from, that's one of the ways to do that. I can tell you that in my case, I for years was thinking that my great grandmother was from the same town as my great grandfather. But when I got her sister's record from the 1940 national registration, the sister being 103 years old at the time, it showed that she was from a shtetl 9 kilometers away, which changed everything for me. So just keep that in mind if you are unsure of the town where they lived before they came to America. Yes, Andres.
No, I just saw that Selma wrote a message on the chat. Is there a way to find records in Israel?
Yeah, the best way to find records in Israel. Thank you. I'm sorry, I haven't been monitoring the chat. The best way to find records in Israel, to start off, is to join IGRA, in the Israeli Genealogical Research Association, IGRA. They have a massive amount of data, and you can see what you can find on their website. Alternatively, if you're looking for information on immigration into Israel, you write to the Central Zionist Archives, and the Central Zionist Archives have the immigrant information. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge within the Israeli Genealogical Society, the Israeli Genealogical Community. There's a Israeli Genealogical Society, and there's an Israeli researchers, two separate organizations. But both have a lot of volunteers who can help you to a certain extent. So that would be what I would recommend. And IGRA is available in both Hebrew and English. Many of the members of IGRA are, in fact, immigrants from people who've made Aliyah from all over the world, and whose Hebrew is really not good enough to communicate well. So it's an English website, and they know that they're serving the outside world. Yes, Vicky.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to Thelma or anyone else whose video isn't on. Um, oh, uh, it's erased. At the bottom of my screen, or it may be in different places depending on what you're using, but one of the options is reactions. It's like a little smiley face, and if you click on it, one of the things you can do is raise your hand. It says raise hand, and you can see there's a hand in the corner of my, oh, there, Gary just did it. And we don't check the chat. You know, there's just too much to do. If you put your question in chat, we might miss it. But if you use the raise hand icon, we'll definitely know that you have a question. Okay, folks. For those of you whose video isn't on, the best thing is to turn on your video and do this.
And
But,
wait.
but,
Well,
but the hand icon is the next.
Yeah, for that suggestion, I just gave you a clapping hand.
Wave, clap. So it's under the reactions, a little smiley face that says reactions.
Very good.
And that's where you'll find it. And now I'm going to lower my hand.
If there are no further questions. Oh yes, okay. Judith.
It has to do with Family Tree Maker program. I had a antiquated program back to about 1990, and it totally degraded. I lost most of my relatives. So now I have a new computer, and I have a jump drive, which I purchased at the conference in 2017. I think it was in San Diego. And it came in a little wooden box. And you open up and there's a wooden jump drive, which under the direction of a technical person, and I had to do everything remotely to set up this new computer. So he said, try to put it in the USB port in the back of the computer screen. It's an all-in-one, and it refuses to do anything.
Well,
So
wait a
is
second.
there?
What was on this jump drive?
It was Family Tree Maker 2017.
Okay.
So do I have
Sue has
to
her hand up.
can it be downloaded online? Or I thought it would be very easy just to put this
Hold on.
jump drive
Dan-
in, and I thought it would start immediately. And it
Sue,
said so.
unmute yourself and just jump in. Sue has her hand up. Maybe she has an answer.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. So what I had to do was I contacted Family Tree Maker, and like I also had that same little box in the USB. But so what I did was I contacted them on they have a live, like a chat where you have to type in your question, and you then ask them, could I please have a live agent? They don't like to do that initially, but once they see that you have a major problem and you say, I'm not computer savvy, they will give you a live agent and they will walk you through. I spent 3 days on the phone with them, updating and changing everything. And then I also have now 2019. You might be smart to just say, okay, I have the 2017. What would it cost to upgrade to the 2019? Because you don't want to fall further behind right now, and then they're into a new one. At least 2019 will keep you close. So that's what I would do, is I would go online, go to Family Tree Maker website, go to their help, and then there's a little box and you type in your question, and then as they start to talk to you, say, is it possible to speak to a live agent? Because I'm computer savvy.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
well,
so much.
yeah, just one other thing. Judith, you mentioned that something got corrupted. Your old program got corrupted. Judith?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that was what a Family Tree Maker 4 or something like that?
It was a Family Tree Maker program that had been installed circa 1990.
Okay.
Or before 1995, very old.
Right, but the program is separate from the data. The data is in a separate location on your computer.
I no longer have this computer anymore. The old computer was just dismantled about a month ago, 6 weeks ago.
Okay, and you got rid of it.
No, I still have it had a tower.
Okay, but what about the hard drive in it?
The hard drive is in the tower.
Okay. But here's the point. There are ways in which you can read that old drive. There are devices to read that old drive. And what I'm saying is that if I understand you correctly, you're going to have to reinsert all your family history information.
Well, a lot of it had disappeared. That's why when I knew something was wrong with the program, this is years ago, probably 5 years ago, I went in to print up, add another relative to put a birth or a death or something. And that branch of the family was totally gone. It was like hundreds of people. So out of the whole database, I would say I was only left with, maybe 30% of my thousands of
Okay, look, I'm not an expert. All I'm saying is that data on a hard drive, Gary, you can jump in here. It's still there. It's still there someplace. And my own experience with an old computer once was that, everything seemed to have disappeared. I brought it to a specialist. It cost me, I think, $800, and they brought back everything. Yeah, Vicky?
Two things. First of all, Judith, do you know if your family tree maker file was on the flash drive or on the hard drive? Like not the application, but the actual file for your family.
I don't know. I may still have the original disc.
I'm not talking about the original disc. As Stanley
oh, you
said,
mean the newer
the
one?
Application, and then there's the file that you've made. My family or whatever you called it.
I have no idea.
Well, you could find out by reading the flash drive and seeing if it's there.
No, there was nothing on the flash drive. This 2017, through circumstances, I never got to actually use it.
Can I just say something? Judith's flash drive is empty, and it was just a gimmick that they had.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a nice little package, so you could back up on that. But you would have bought Family Tree 2017. You do have access. But that's why I'm saying the best people, I'm telling you, for all the things that have just been said, these people, especially if you get to talk to someone and they may even jump you up to a higher level, they know the products, they know the old products. The company has been bought and sold probably twice since you had your original program. And it's true that some of the files are probably still on your computer. But like even if you take it to Best Buy, to the Geek Squad, they say, and I know because I've done this, they say, oh, we're not allowed to deal with Family Tree Maker or any of these kinds of products. You may be able to convince them to do it and say that they're not responsible. Sometimes you get a nice geek that will do that, but they don't have to do it. They may not want to. That's where you'd have to get somebody private that, maybe somebody here knows someone who can look at that. But I would start by contacting them, telling them your story, and ask them what steps to do next.
Okay.
Definitely keep that hard drive, please.
Actually, it's in the tower, and I can't lift it.
But it can be taken out. It can be taken out.
Yeah, well, I have to have someone. Yeah. It's not possible at this time during COVID to have someone in to do it.
Right, so, but just keep it.
Yes,
and
okay.
Let me add, I don't want to put salt on the wound, but let me add how important it is to keep your data in more than one place.
That's what I was going to say.
And not even more than one physical place. Yeah. Just back up on keys, back up on a hard drive, put it in a safe, like just do it.
I agree with you completely.
Oh, I was going to say what Marilyn said, that you should at least have at least one backup of your data file, your family file. Ideally, have one in the cloud, have one, as Marilyn said, in a different place.
Now, I must tell you that I have, using Dropbox, my laptop is updated automatically with my desktop, and I have 3 separate backups online, 3 different companies backing up my data. It's not that we don't, in terms of JRI Poland data with, more than 6 million records, it's not that we don't have the data backed up in other places, but I'm dealing with a lot of new files that come in and may not have, I may have overlooked sending something along, and we just had that today. Oh yeah, I forgot to send that over to so and so, but I don't lose it. My computer could blow up, but everything's available. It's
Look
really
what happened to the pipelines in the eastern United States.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. If somebody comes in and gets into my computer and asks for $2,000 ransomware, this ransomware, by the way, I remember my late brother-in-law, he clicked on the wrong thing, and the next thing he knew, his computer was frozen, and he got a phone call or message or something. A message went up on the screen. If you want to unlock it, send $800 to so-and-so. Very, very frustrating, but he had to do it. It's a lesson never to click on anything that you're not 100% sure of. And even if you're 100% sure of, pick up the phone and call. What I do, and just as a matter of whether anybody wants my opinion, what I do is if I get a message that looks like anything, even if I'm 99.9% sure it's valid, I capture the subject line, I go to Google and I put it in and I say, is this spam? And I'm glad I have done that on many occasions, because just take a look at how many times, I don't know whether you folks have received messages from Chase Bank or Citibank or whatever have you. And if you happen to have, in the States, if you happen to have an account with that bank, you're like saying, oh, okay, I have an account with that bank. So the same thing happens in Canada. You'll get a message that ostensibly is from Royal Bank, but it's not from Royal Bank. So be careful, folks.
2 things, once we're on that subject, I just put in the chat, urlvoid.com. Every time I have a new website, I copy it and I paste it into URL Void, and it will tell you if there are any, what do you call it?
Non-kosher sites.
Non-kosher things, yeah. And also, when you get an email, if you click on that little arrow beside the from, sometimes you'll see it has nothing to do with the from. It's from Japan, it's from Europe, it's from somewhere. Just be really, really, really careful. And very often I have sent an email to friends saying, did you send this to me? Because it just looked, there was no personal message, or there was just a link or something. You've got to be ultra, ultra, ultra careful.
Judith,
That's right.
one question. Back when you got your program, you would have had maybe even floppy disks. Certainly you didn't have USB drives at that time in the 90s.
Right.
So do you happen to have a backup of any of those copies of your family tree maker from then?
I'll check. I moved in a different residence now for about 2.5 years. I have a few that of the discs that I took with me, and I'll check that.
but you would.
But you still can't put that into my computer now.
Well,
No.
no, but that's easy to do. There are services that will read your old floppy disks. You know, frankly, I have a computer that can read an old floppy disk. It's down in my locker in the apartment, and I'm not going to bring it up, I can tell you. But the source of that computer, I got two of them. My original XT from 1986, and also the one that Leonard Roth kindly gave me about 15 years ago. So yeah, if there was an emergency, I would be able to read that disc. But I apologize, Judith. It's such a
I don't expect you to.
schlep.
Go down.
But there are people who've got them, you know, on their desks, ready, willing, and able to read them for you.
But Stanley, don't you have to have the original program inserted into there in order to read the data that's on the disk?
Well, yeah, but if you can get any program that reads GEDCOM, presumably the backup is in GEDCOM, but yeah, I'm just wondering if I threw out all my old Family Tree. I think I've thrown out my old family. Well, I'll put it this way: Family Tree Maker has the ability to read the old programs. They have all the different, generations of Family Tree Maker.
Well, what form is Family Tree Maker these days?
I'm sorry?
Is Family Tree Maker only accessed online now? Or
No.
You mean to purchase the software?
Yes, yeah. How do you purchase the software?
They will sell you a disc or a thumb drive with the program, but 99% of people just download the program online.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easy way.
To,
Okay, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you again soon.